Jeffrey Epstein truly believed that his DNA specifically was so superior.
I mean, that's not too surprising given the fact that he was a complete sociopath for his entire life and used his vast wealth to buy off people and silence and intimidate people and basically treat children, especially children, like objects for his own gratification. He's pretty sick individual. It kind of comports with the whole society of Israel at large and the ideology of Jewish supremacy. But again, I would say that it was his role as a capitalist, as an investor, as a money launderer. It was the fact that he was connected into that global finance system and was, literally had billions of dollars at his disposal, which, conveniently he was able to, when you're super duper rich like that, you tend to cling on to ideas that are convenient, to you in your socioeconomic class. So it's not surprising that he would, believe in the idea of Jewish supremacy and be a big supporter of Israel. They go hand in hand, These ideas are well funded.
That he wanted to house a baby-making ranch in Mexico where he would impregnate 20 women at a time because he felt that he needed to seed the humanity with his DNA. This article was posted in the New York Times. Jeffrey Epstein hoped to seed human race with his DNA. Shockingly. And the article
How is that any different from like Elon Musk, who's trying to repopulate the world and put more of his bloodline out there? So Epstein hoped to seed human race with his DNA. Didn't he have like sperm farms or some shit? Like he wanted to like engineer entire bloodlines and create a master race.
On and says that Jeffrey Epstein, the wealthy financer, hoped to seed the human race with his DNA by impregnating women at his vast New Mexico ranch, rather.
Yeah, right. He's at the ranch.
Mr. Epstein, over the years, confided to scientists and others about his scheme, according to 4 people familiar with his thinking, although there is no evidence that it ever came to fruition. Mr. Epstein's vision reflected his long-standing fascination with what has become known as transhumanism, the science of improving the human population through technologies like genetic engineering and artificial intelligence.
Genetically engineering humans. It's like, why do these people, can't you just let people start families of their own? You have to genetically engineer this concept of passing on, establishing a bloodline, if you will. They want to stick their hands in everything. They've got to control everything, even like the future of the human race. Like, why not just let people figure it out and establish their own families for themselves and do it out of a place of love? And I know that sounds cliche, but maybe I'm too old fashioned. I don't think we should be engineering bloodlines in human laboratories.
However, the truth about Jeffrey Epstein is he wasn't just a transhumanist, which is more so a future term that focuses on using technology, but that he genuinely was a eugenicist in the deepest sense, that he didn't feel that he was superior at the level of Europeans, but he actually viewed himself separate than European ancestry, and even went as far as mocking European, believing that he, as an Ashkenazi Jew, which is how he identified himself, was superior. Now, this is Maria Farmer. She was Jeffrey Epstein's first victim. And back last year, I actually had the privilege of speaking with Maria Farmer on an X-Base. And she is now one of the most anti-Zionist, anti-Israel individuals you'll meet, because her experience with Jeffrey Epstein led her to feeling less than. And she spoke about how, as a white girl, Jeffrey Epstein would mock her because she was inferior to him. And she truly felt that way because of how much Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made her feel in the comments that they would say.
Because look, he's got billions of dollars, and he's living in mansions, and he's flying around the world in private jets, and he's just got everything at a beckoning call. Of course, people are going to look at that, and then he's going to be completely sociopathic about it and arrogant. And so I could see how people fell for that, but that's because he had the material wealth to lend some credence to whatever ideas he might have shared.
Listen to this phone interview that she gave a few years back.
I think that just accruing that much wealth just puts you at odds with all sorts of human values. It's just, you lose your humanity, and it's like that's how you need to behave. Yeah, that's true. It wasn't his wealth. Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, you know, you can make a pedantic point, slam dog, if you wish, but the point is that he had all of this wealth at his disposal. It might as well have been his if he can control it. It's sort of like how the banking class is really the most powerful because they manage the money for the industrial monopolists. And so in that way, they have access to all this information, and they can play the market, and they can dial up a company, and they can, you know, choose not to invest in that company. They could literally tank entire industries based on how they want to move the money around. So, I mean, Epstein controlled, he was like the executor to Les Wexner's billion, I don't know, I forget how many billions of dollars he has, probably dozens of billions of dollars at his disposal. That's all I'm trying to say. I think when you have that, when you can single-handedly just hurl institutions at your victims and just squash them out of existence, you tend to adopt an ideology that is convenient and conducive to you still feeling good about yourself despite doing all this horrendous shit. I think across the board, you know, it's an endemic of capitalism, because there's just something about the fact that you are that powerful. One person has so much power and so much money. You just become a sociopath. And if you're not a sociopath, you'll become one, and maybe you were already one. You know, maybe it's because you were so sociopathic that you could forego human dignity in order to make sure that everything is accessible to you at all the time. It makes me think of, and I won't belabor the point, but who was it? Somebody, I listen to all these podcasts every day, but I forgot who said this, but it was something to the effect of Jeffrey Epstein was the kind of person that, you know, sort of a theme in the billionaire class too. They restrict the rights of others while making sure they have free range and accept themselves as they are wholly. You know, they can just do whatever they want. Nothing is too taboo. They can do anything, and they can, you know, justify it. And Jeffrey did that with Jewish supremacy. But I just think that's a good way of putting it. They restrict others, but they accept themselves. They reject others and their habits or behaviors or their wants and needs, but they are wholly acquiescent to just enriching and living in excess and carrying out every whim, every fantasy that they want. Nothing is off the table. And I mean, just think, I mean, if everyone behaved in the world like that, it would be just absolute pandemonium,
the way
chaos.
Jeffrey Gilland spoke about African Americans, it was like, it made my skin crawl. Anybody who was not Jewish, and you're right about this, but the way they spoke about them, it was really horrifying. And it showed me a great deal about how these people truly believe that they're chosen to do something here. I don't know. It's unbelievable to me. I mean, and it was every one of them, the way they spoke. And one time I heard Isabel say to her mother, Eileen, "Mommy, why do you call Maria a nobody?" And she said, "Honey, Isabel, Maria is not a Jew. She is a nobody."
Wow. Well, you know, it is worth
so
pointing.
You can see why for about 20 years.
That type of stuff I might actually include just because the Maxwell family have
you
ties
should include
to this
it.
group.
You should include a Jewish baby. That was another thing.
The more I learn about this crazy cult, this crazy religious cult, is just astonishing. That's what the island was for, to be exactly. Yes, go get yourself an island far from any oversight, any legal troubles, any sense of authority over you. You own the island. I think that's why they're all banding together now. They want to own their own country. They want their own billionaire region now. It's not enough to just go island hopping. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what that was for, and that's what happened.
That she would have been so lucky. See, they constantly made it very clear to me. You can't eat at the country club because you're not a Jew. You can't, and I mean, it's like they get hit with a soccer ball in the gut.
You're not a Jew? Ooh.
So we'll just
something about calling somebody a Jew is just derogatory. It's just so pejorative for some reason. If I said, "Hey, you're a Christian," it doesn't really sound like bad. Or "You're a Muslim." Okay, I mean, I guess if you're like a neocon, I guess that sounds bad to somebody like that. But "You're a Jew." I don't know. There's just a lot of it's a lot of weight to that. It sounds bad. But me laughing is obviously antiseptic, and I beg forgiveness.
Stop right there. The things that you just heard are pretty shocking. She wasn't allowed, and I want to be very specific of who I'm referring to for YouTube guidelines, of course, because I don't want to generalize entire groups of people. I'm specifically
Are they both Jewish? I know Matt Stone and Trey Parker are the creators of South Park, and Eric Cartman, big anti-Semite.
talking here about Jeffrey
Big in the peddling anti-Semitism.
Epstein and the individuals that Jeffrey Epstein was closely related to. I'm not generalizing, but here is a case where Jeffrey Epstein had supremacist ideology, and that affected...
They do want to do this in Gaza, and they are. And I'm hearing horrifying report of how the U.S. is going to slap a military base, the border, from what I heard, was like halfway in Gaza and halfway in Israel. And it's just like we're still trying to apply that colonial mentality, you know, the 20th century Cold War logic and policy is we're still trying to go back to that. It's like the world has moved on and we're still clinging to our old ways, and they don't work quite so well anymore. They're a bit outdated. But we know that's when you're an empire, the way that the United States dominated the past century plus, like eventually, you know, the history is not static. History is always evolving, and that's scientific. It's a scientific law of nature, just like with every object in nature, every event. Nothing is static in this world. It's always changing. There are contradictions upon contradictions playing out and always evolving. And yet what do we know about empires? And however you want to classify it, whatever is the dominant class, the dominant aspect, will always want to cling on to dead ideology. And a good example of that, I think, is religion. Listen to how the ruling class uses religion to promote a static view of history and the world as it is. Because the moment that they try to acknowledge that history is evolving, the moment they acknowledge that things are dynamic, they spell a death sentence for their class. They spell a death sentence for their reign, because what you're basically saying is that in some point in the future, you will become irrelevant, and that's not a conducive idea to maintaining power, so you don't want to put that in the public mind, because once the public has some funny ideas, it's, you know, borne out by history what the public is capable of doing, which is transcending society. I think that's a common theme with empire, and that's what we're doing. We're slapping military bases. I think we're also trying to put a military base. We're building a military base in Syria right now as well. It's really gross.
His victims so deeply that she would talk about how she wasn't allowed to go to country clubs because she's not a Jew. She was ridiculed by Jeffrey Epstein. That she didn't say this in this interview, but she said this to me when I spoke to her.
I'm thinking of converting to Judaism just so that my government will represent me. Finally. I don't think that's a bad move. Maybe we should just all convert to Judaism. If you can't beat them, you might as well join them. You can't beat the because that's anti-Semitic. So you might as well join the Jews. But the thing is, like, even if you join the Jews, you're still going to be the enemy, you know? And there's such a handshake going on with Judaism and colonialism, because we've seen from colonized people that even when they try to become like their colonizers, they get equally despised, you know? So we're unfortunately for us, a race, it's a bloodline, it's not just a religion. Of course, it is a religion when you want it to be and when they want it to be, but sometimes when they get in their feelings, it's also an ethnicity, it's also a race, it's a culture. You can be culturally, ethnically, religiously, and racially Jewish, but you could also be an atheist, and I think that makes perfect sense. Not so.
Last year, I wish I had it recorded, but it was a non-recorded X-Base, and she told me that he was very interested in his haplogroup, and he felt he had a very specific type of haplogroup, I believe RB1 or R1B, something along the lines, and he believed that his DNA was so superior that everybody beneath him was non-human. He separated between himself as a Jewish man and others that were non-Jews, and he would term them as simply not as human as him.
I mean, think about the fact that the IDF has the goon squad that goes in to retrieve the sperm from dead, fallen IDF soldiers before it's too late, you know? Got to get that sperm on ice and get it back to Shlomo's wife so she can pour it in her vagine so that the bloodline can continue and the little Shlomos can be born. But that's, you know, I realize I'm in the wrong business. I should be a Jewish sperm investor. I feel like that stock is probably something to, you know, because it's not only valuable, but it serves a purpose. It's purposefully valuable. It's not just a store of value, you know? It's not like owning Bitcoin. If you have some good Jewish sperm, you can engineer the master race for one. You know, the penis platoon, that's what they are. I'm sorry, the ball sack battalion. The cum company, the semen squad. Wow, you guys have been at work while I was ranting. You guys are still stuck on the goon squad. I like the goon squad. What's wrong with the goon squad? But the ballsack battalion is pretty good, I'm gonna say. It's penis platoon's not bad. It's all from one guy. It's all from the same person. This guy is just going off. He's like, no, this is my jam. Finally, I get to shine. Chief Indian, thank you. Welcome in. You have made your presence known. I'm going to go ahead and say my favorite of yours was the Ballsack Battalion. Also, the Cum Company, that's a little redundant. You could just say the company, but use an M. I mean, I'm sorry, use a U. I'm dumb. A lot of people are saying like gold is the thing we should get into because the dollar's declining. I think it should be Jewish sperm. I think that is going to be a good investment in the future. It's got utility. It's got value. Jeffrey Epstein was apparently obsessed with superior Jewish genes. He had a cryo lab where he would, his plan. I don't think he ever got through with it. Well, what do we know? He had a laboratory where he collected Jewish semen in order to eventually engineer the master race and bring his people home back to the promised land. So, yes, Jews and Zionism, completely separate. Completely two different things. I think we are capable, nuanced, critical thinkers where we can accept that fact. We know that. And yet, we know also that religion is not a race, and the Jews aren't special in the sense that they can't be made fun of. Okay, you could tell a joke and it's not like you should be arrested. Okay, if we can live in this primordial soup of Islamophobia that we live in, where we have senators gleefully cheering on these policies of wrecking entire cultures and people in the Middle East based on, well, it's really based on stealing their resources, but it's justified with hating Muslims and considering the fact that the president of the United States thinks that Islam is our core enemy, as he said so much, and we have so many senators telling us this as well, and we literally pursue all these policies, and we justify it with Islamophobia. I don't think that we live in an anti-Semitic world. I don't see it, okay? I think, if anything, I think the Jews have largely been doing okay. Remember that it's literally about 15 million Jewish people in the world, and, I think Jews should be able to practice their religion in peace, just like I think that Christians and Muslims should. But I also think we should not frame this whole thing along religious lines. But the thing about it is that they do it and they're so precious about it. And I want to tell people that you don't need to fall for that. It's like, if anything, we are living in an Islamophobic world. If there's one religion that's getting dogged out, I want to ridicule the things that they hold so precious. I don't think religion is that precious. I don't really consider. I grew up Catholic. I Catholicism, and I feel like I should, and I could, and I find funny jokes about Catholics and Christians. I think if you can make a joke about any religion, you should be able to make a joke about Islam. And I don't believe that it's an ethno-religion. I don't think that an ethno-religion exists. I think religions are religious ideologies. That's it. They're a set of beliefs, and I don't other the You know, they're not above being criticized or made fun of. And you know, I don't know if that sounds awful to hear, but I just don't think that a joke against a religion is really that harmful. Okay, I think when you carry out a genocide and you commandeer a standing army and you commit ethnic cleansing and you impose a blockade and you starve people, that takes on a whole set of new circumstances and conditions that can't be just simply explained by Judaism. I think practicing a religion is one thing, and then commandeering an ethno-state that's committing mass murder is a different functional role and identity that we should attach to that material action. Okay, and I think what Israel is doing or not doing lately is effectively conflating the two. Anyone saying the race has other lies to tell you, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I always say this, but there's the meme, the arm wrestling meme, or I guess it's like it looks like a hand, like they're locking hands, you know, and you could put Zionists on one arm and on the other, and in the middle they're shaking hands about scapegoating the Jew, othering the Jew, or just even quoting the race. Anyway, that's my little rant, okay? Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to the page to help it grow. And if you'd like to support my work, join my Patreon for exclusive content.